our total timeline from start to finish was 2 months-ish. We didn't quite have enough from the 401k alone to be able to make the investment. One of the reasons that really matters to us is because we want that cash to live on. So we didn't want to use our cash. We wanted to use our IRAs, and that's one of the reasons why it mattered so much. But I couldn't be more happy that we started when we did, that we pulled the trigger and got things moving. So yeah, but I'm not at peace, but I'm very happy things are moving along. The stability of a rules-based society and organization. So that actually increased my faith.
And I think the process went really quickly from June when you applied. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for coming, and it's nice to have you here. Andrew just got his biometric, no, your wife got your biometric done like yesterday. So can you tell us a little bit about the biometric itself? Was it smooth and so on?
It was very smooth. It was actually really easy to get through the process. So the appointment was relatively fast. I would say we were there for under an hour in the rather pleasant town of Cascais. Given that we didn't know exactly where our appointment would be, it was a lovely spot to go to the appointment.
Yes. It's really pretty.
Payment was smooth, the paperwork was smooth. Otavio was on the ball with all of the things that we might end up needing, like boarding passes, for instance, for how we got in the country. That was a surprising thing that we didn't even know that we would need, and he was able to actually collect that from us just before we went into the appointment, so he was able to deliver everything that the people could possibly need, which actually really smoothed the whole thing out. So there was no need for follow-up information, and we were in and out.
And I know that, like, because you invested with IRA, you didn't have a bank account in Portugal, which we will talk about a little bit more about the IRA process. But how did you got your payment done? It's very quite interesting. I think some of our clients would like to know as well.
Yeah, we were worried about the payment. In fact, we brought, I think we brought 3 different bank cards in order to pay, just because we wanted to make sure that everything was going to be fine. And so we brought 2 different credit card lines, which is what we kind of was our backup plan, and we tested them. We tested each payment instrument before coming at the airport and at the little shops and at restaurants. But the one that we wanted to use was a Wise account, TransferWise or Wise. I think there's a couple of these online banks these days where you can move currency between, like US dollars and euro and various other currencies. And a friend of mine who travels a lot to Europe, he had used Wise, and so I ended up just using that one. So we had moved our money to euros already, and we could pay in euros with the Wise card, and it worked just like a Visa. So that was, so we thought, oh, well, we can ready our money, have it already sitting in euros, and then just go and pay with that. And it ended up working at the site just fine, just like any Visa card payment would.
And there's like transaction fees must be a lot lower, right?
Yeah, I think there's no transaction fee for essentially for using the Visa, and you get the currency conversion. One of the nice things about these online banks is they often have a network of banks around the world, and they do the currency conversion at very low currency conversion rates, and you can time the currency conversion. So instead of paying, for instance, and then saying whatever the currency conversion rate is right now, you can actually set your whole account up, put your money in US dollars, transfer it to euros at a time that suits you, have it sitting there in euros, and be ready to go, which I liked about it.
Really good options, right? Right. So can you tell us a little bit more about investing with IRA? Because I think a lot of potential Americans that have a big IRA account would be willing to do so, or they're thinking about investing or doing the Golden Visa with their IRAs.
Sure. Yeah, the IRA really appealed to us because the bank timelines for setting up a bank were a big chunk of the time that we wanted to take. I think our total timeline from start to finish was 2 months-ish.
It was really quick.
From essentially signing the contract with you to having our paperwork in, roughly that timetable. And I think that was possible primarily because we cut the bank out of the loop. Having to do the bank paperwork, having to make the decision, then do the bank paperwork, then wait on the know your customer process. That was a chunk we wanted out. So when we were starting with the IRA, a key decision we had to make was I was going to use my IRA in order to fund the process, but I'm still working. And I had rolled my 401ks. So 401ks can be easily converted to IRAs.
Right.
And 401ks can be rolled forward from employer to employer. But I have rolled mine forward.
Okay.
And so I still have my 401k because I'm still working. What that does is it locks away the money. You can't just invest in anything.
Okay.
You can invest only in the funds that the 401k provider has. But my wife had retired. And so we were able to convert her 401k into an IRA so that we could actually make the investment. So once you retire, that frees up your 401k to be invested anywhere. And what we had to do was we had to set up, we had to use what's called a self-directed IRA, where you essentially move the assets to a company that they do the verification that your investments are legitimate. With the US government, you have to do filings every year. So this independent company, that's really what they do, is you're moving the money to them so that they can conduct the audit at the end of the year.
Okay.
Once you get the money there, then you can invest wherever you want to invest. You can invest in real estate, and you can invest in all kinds of things. So that's what opened up the ability to then wire the funds over and invest here.
Cool, you're an expert now.
not by any means.
Investing with your IRA funds,
Yeah, we've been through the process.
You've been doing a lot of homework
and learned
because
quite a bit.
I remember you had like the spreadsheets that very detailed.
Yeah, that was one of the things, and that actually helped. We didn't quite have enough from the 401k alone to be able to make the investment, and so we had to make up funds from another source to be able to. And this was a beautiful thing about funds. Funds let you wire, essentially you can come from multiple sources into the fund to make up the total. So it doesn't all have to come from your 401k.
Right.
But bringing a big chunk from your 401k, you often have a lot locked away in your 401k or in your IRA. So being able to bring that to bear really lessened the amount that we had to use our cash. One of the reasons that really matters to us is because we want that cash to live on. We're early retirees, and so we're planning on early retirement. When you retire early, you don't have your pensions. You don't have access to your IRA. You don't have access to your 401k. You don't have access to Social Security. So you need money to live.
Right.
So your cash is precious. Taking your cash and putting that into a 5-year investment locks it away for those 5 years. We need money to live on for those 5 years. So we didn't want to use our cash. We wanted to use our IRAs, and that's one of the reasons why it mattered so much.
That's a very smart choice.
Hopefully it will pay on.
Right.
So.
Thank you so much. And can you tell us a little bit how you found us, like the Golden Portugal, and why you choose us? Because I know, like during the process, you have also talked with other agencies as well.
So we'd actually started a few months earlier, kind of browsing different golden visas. So we were looking on the various sites that have detailed, including your site, that have kind of detailed descriptions of what the program is and what you get out of it. And so we considered like the Greece program and a number of different countries, including Portugal. But Portugal's not needing to reside allowed us to kick off the process way earlier than we would be able to kick off the process if we waited until my retirement. So my retirement is a couple of years, maybe actually a little bit closer now than when we started, but we wanted to get that process started so that we could have the Portuguese residency ready to go the minute that our retirement wrapped up.
Right.
And so being able to start the process, essentially a couple, 3 years earlier, and then be that much closer to being able to have citizenship and unlocking being able to reside anywhere in the EU was extremely attractive. So that's what settled us on Portugal.
Right.
By that time, I had researched maybe 3-4 other organizations, and I set up calls, I think, with 3 companies. The reason that I turned away from some of the other companies that I ruled them out is they were connected intimately with the investment options. What I worried about with and I pulled down the documentation for some of those investment options, and they could get quite complicated.
Right.
What I loved the simplicity of the funds. right? The funds are very familiar to me as somebody who's holds retirement accounts and investments. In the U.S., you invest in a fund. You have to research what the fund's about. I love that some of the funds were listed on exchanges. I had a few calls that you set up with funds that weren't listed on exchanges, but they could detail out what assets they held, what the backing assets for the funds were. All this made sense to me. I was like, okay, I get it. And they're liquid. They're not tied down like I was worried about, because we hold some property, and I was worried about the liquidity of those options. We want more options moving forward, and so we didn't want to get too tied down with assets that were difficult to liquidate. So, so funds were attractive, but I didn't want to engage a organization that was tied up with the investments, because it made me worry. Maybe not intentionally, but their incentives might align more with their investment options than with me. So what I really liked about the Golden Portugal was that it was a fee-based organization. I could pay the fee, and then I could trust the advice. And I had I'd read some documentation that you'd had online describing the various bits of the process. Seemed very well informed, and so that's after our discussion. That's why I settled on you.
Yeah, actually, like, we're not financial advisors. We don't want to advise our clients where to invest. Like, we're more like an immigration agency to help you throughout the process, line up with fund managers that you're interested in, so you can make your own decisions on that. So I think that's essentially who we are, and I'm glad that you like our setup.
I like that model.
Right. Just last, How do you feel about, like, you're so close now getting your resident card from your initial decision of like going through this process of setting up a plan B? Like, are you very at peace now, or you're happy?
Well, I'm not.
It's your first time that you're in Portugal, right?
This is
and
the first time.
how do you like it, and so on?
Okay, so I'm not yet at peace, because there's always pieces you're watching, right? And you're waiting for the next step, and I think this is always true. Until you're done, you're always anticipating that next step and watching very closely everything going on. But I couldn't be more happy that we started when we did, that we pulled the trigger and got things moving.
When did you start?
So, I first started doing serious research in January of 25. I think we might have, June was when we actually filed, so 2 months prior to that was when we actually pulled the trigger. And we had some family things going on, so when we were doing some of the original research, we were focused on that. But after that, essentially family issue passed, then right after that, it was probably a couple of weeks, so maybe March, April of 25, that we essentially said, we've got to do this. We've got to move forward and get our options opened up. And I'm really glad that we started when we did. And I think if I hadn't started now, I would want to start now in order to get things moving. So but I'm not at peace, but I'm very happy things are moving along. And I'm very hopeful. Actually, one of the things, when the immigration rules were changing, I'm sure many people are upset or confused about the proposed changes. So one of the things that made me more settled about it, I was very happy that the president of the country, when they looked at the law, responded with, we need to see whether or not this is constitutional. And then it needed to go to constitutional review. And then I was glad that I think it was the parliament kicked it essentially to review, even prior to sending it to the president, which made me very happy. And then in the constitutional review, even that process, even though I would say there's some aspects you might quibble with in the review, I was very pleased that generally they were saying, we can't change these things because they change certain rules on people that you just can't change on people. All of this to me speaks to stability. The stability of a rules-based society and organization, or like a society that cares about not changing the rules and what the rules are. So that actually increased my faith, even if it might have increased our timetable. I'm still very happy overall with where things are at.
And how do you think of what's your first impression of Portugal? So you've been to Porto,
Yeah.
Lisbon, not yet. You're gonna tour around Lisbon now, Cascais, Estoril, Sintra, and then you're gonna have a 1 week holiday as well, right? So how is it so far?
So well, it's lovely. I think we landed in one of the most challenging storms that has happened in the last couple of months. So the weather has been blowing in like crazy. I think we had 70-mile-an-hour winds at our hotel last night. But almost every day we've been able to get out and do something fun. And like we went to Sintra, saw the palace, and did this lovely hike in the park. That was absolutely amazing. We've had bits of sun here and there. We've still been able to get out and see sights and have a good time. So I would say, and we're from the Pacific Northwest, and so the Pacific Northwest, the weather actually is pretty comparable to these stormy conditions. So for us, it's been terrific not having as many tourists around, being able to get right in places. So overall, it's been a great visit so far.
Great, and I think the process went really quickly from June when you applied, and now it's only like January?
Yeah, 6 months.
6 months, yeah. So, and then soon you will have your resident card, and then family members, biometric. Hopefully within this year, both of you will be having like the Portuguese resident permit.
Yeah, when we started, I think you had set expectations with us that it would take a year from paperwork going in to getting the appointment based on what the timetables were at the time.
So you guys were really lucky.
Like
You're the lucky ones. Like those.
Yeah, we've lucked out incredibly.
Right. And I think you also mentioned about after you get the resident card, you will open doors to all the banks right now in Portugal for you to open a bank account.
Yes.
So you don't need to really rush into it right now because as a non-resident, there's a lot of restrictions into bank opening and so on.
Yes. Yeah, true.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you so much.
A pleasure.
Thank you for your time.
A pleasure. Thank you for
Have
having
a
us.
great trip in Portugal. I hope you'll love it, like Nazaré and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you.